Hey, what's up? This is M Squared, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to get started in Logic Pro X. So my journey in Logic Pro actually started in Logic Pro 8. Before that, I was using strictly outboard gear. I was using an MPC 2000 XL, a Korg Triton Classic, and a motif rack. So at that time, I would sequence all of my tracks into my MPC, and then I would dump everything into Pro Tools. Then I had the amazing opportunity and honor of meeting legendary music producer Ivan Barrios of the Carvin and Ivan production team. You may know Ivan from producing his hits with Music Soul Child, Jill Scott, DJ Jazzy Jeff, and many others. It was Ivan who put me on to Logic Pro 8, and I fell in love with it immediately. So Ivan, if you're watching this, thank you. So if you're coming from using strictly outboard gear and want to transition into using a DAW for your first time or incorporating a DAW into your setup, this video is for you. And if you're coming from another DAW such as Ableton, FL Studio, Reason, Pro Tools, Cubase, and want to transition into Logic Pro X, this video is for you. Once you've opened Logic Pro and you create an empty project, you'll arrive at this window. This will give you the option if you would like to choose a software instrument to start with or an audio instrument. These are the two I normally go between. Down here at the instrument channel, you can actually select which instrument that you'd like to start with here. These are Logic's default instruments that come with the program. Here are your audio outputs. Here you can actually click to open the library once you've created the session, and you can also check mark here to create a multi-temporal instance of the instrument that you selected here. You can add as many parts as you like. Down here you can actually enter the number of tracks you want to start with. So I always just start with one. I'll start with a software instrument, create. Now once you hit create, you'll be in the session view. This is probably the most frequently used window that I'm in when I'm creating. So from here, first thing you want to do is check your settings. So go up to Logic Pro, upper left, go to settings, go to audio. Just double check and make sure your output and input devices are selected to your liking. I have my IO buffer size at 256. I have processing threads at 16, process buffer range at medium, and multi-threading playback and live tracks, summing high precision 64-bit, and rewire behavior is in live mode, rewire and internal. I use this sometimes if I'd like to utilize Ableton and maybe play some of their sounds inside of Logic Pro. Once you've made sure that those settings were to your liking, you go to record, go to recording settings. Once you're in recording settings, you're going to go to synchronization, you're going to go to MIDI. And if you're using a controller like I am now, you want to make sure that listen to MIDI machine control input is selected so that all of your buttons and knobs and faders on your controller, if you have them, will respond accurately inside of Logic Pro when you're using it. What I like to do here for my transport window is to hit this down arrow and go to custom. You'll arrive at this window. You can then select what features you want shown up here in this transport bar. This is how I like to have mine laid out, so I can see the measures that I'm at, the BPM, time signature, and some of the MIDI readout here, CPU load, and see how that's moving throughout the session. But you can go through all of these options here and toggle which ones you'd like shown or not shown. If you want to count in for your metronome before you start recording, you would hit this button here, make sure that it's purple, it's selected. If it's not selected, it'll be grayed out. You could also click and hold this here, and then it'll give you an option of what count in amount that you want, 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bars. You can customize that here. Go to metronome. I like to have this selected here, click while recording. Then you can have only during the count in, you can have that selected, so where the metronome will stop after the count in. You can select polyphonic clicks here. You can actually decide if you want the click on. From there, just select on click, and you see Logic will give you a message prompt that says your metronome click is on. Here, if you click on this, you'll end up in your project window. This is where you can actually select and cycle through your own files. If you have an external hard drive, you can actually select that here. All you have to do to audition some sounds here in your folder, You just click on the sound. You can start hearing and auditioning loops and all the sounds that you have saved in your different folders. This button down here will actually allow you to hear the preview. And you just click it again to turn it off. This button here in the upper right corner is your loop browser. These are the sounds that you install natively with Logic Pro. These are a lot of just different drum loops and instrument loops and effect loops that you can utilize, and they'll play in time with your BPM here. This is a project window that you can actually write notes in if you want to make some notations here. This is your list editor window here. You'll be able to see a lot of the events that are happening within your session, your markers for help with arrangements. You can add different markers and tempos and signatures and things like that in this window. That's what this section is all about. The next thing I would do is click on View up here and select Secondary Ruler. That's going to add your time marker above your bar measures here, so that you can also not only see what measure you're on or what bar you're on, you can see what time marker you're at within your session. So this gives you a better readout of both to be able to know where you are and what you'd like to do at a particular time in that track. So another little feature that I like to use is this little triangle thing here. If you're working on a track and it's longer than say 4 minutes, you'll run into a block right here. All you have to do is hover over this triangle piece here and click it and drag it back, and that will extend the length of the track that you're working on. And also from the beginning of your track, you'll see this same gray triangle here at the front. You do the same thing and actually add an extension to the beginning of your track by clicking and pulling back to the left, and you'll start to see this open up and go into negative measures. So you see this negative one here. So in the event, you may want to start your cycle area here and bring this forward before the start of the track. You can do that here with that technique. So this here yellow bar is your cycle loop. If you want to loop a particular section while you're working on it, you just click that gray area here and it will turn yellow. You can actually click and drag to the length that you desire. These are your main clicking tools. As you can see, this first one is your pointer tool. That's already default here. The one beside it is what shows up on a command and click. I normally like to have this set to a scissor tool so that I can cut and slice audio or regions quickly. Click on command, you'll see a scissor show up, so then I can click different parts of a loop or a region and slice them and move parts around with the pointer tool. So I'll pull in a drum loop here. You would just click, hold, and drag and pull it right into the session window and it will show up here. So now this is an audio loop. So the audio loop here, default color is blue. So if you have the inspector window turned on here, that's going to allow you to see the channel strip that corresponds with the track that you have selected. So this is the channel strip for this track. I can turn the volume up and down here with the fader. I can mute and solo from here. I can record, arm it from here. This is your insert to select any audio effects that you'd like to place on the track. So these are, again, some of the Logic Pro default effects, and you can actually select them here. If you want to put a delay on there, you can add it. For example, I'll put this echo on here and you'll see the echo window open up here. This is your stereo out. This is where you would select your sends. If you want to send it to a bus, you can do that here. So this is an audio track, as you know, and this is a MIDI track. So what I'm going to do here is select on the channel strip right here in the instrument insert and go to drum synth. This also comes default with Logic Pro. I'm just going to place a kick and record here. Your transport controls are here If you're not using a controller, you can record right here. You can cycle here. This is your play button, and this is your go to the beginning. Since I'm using a controller, what I'll do is hit record from my controller, and it'll trigger Logic Pro to start recording. Okay, now that we have a MIDI event in here, as you can see, it turns green. If I want to quantize what I just did in MIDI, all I have to do is go here to this region window, and you'll see quantize. You can actually select to what note value you want to quantize. I'll choose 1/16 here. So now that we'll have the kick quantized. If you want to open the MIDI window, just double click the region and the MIDI window will be opened here, and you can see all of your MIDI events that you just recorded in this window. You could also quantize from this window. You can highlight all of the events here and just click on the Q to quantize. You can choose a quantize strength here. You can choose your swing amount here, and you can adjust your velocities here for each MIDI event that you've recorded inside here. Also, if you need to make any edits, if you need to add any additional MIDI notes here, you can do that. I just hit Command and click. You'll see this turn into a pencil, so you can start writing any MIDI notes that you want anywhere. And to delete, you could actually choose down here the eraser tool as your secondary tool, hit Command and erase, or you can just highlight and click delete on your keyboard. Speaking of keyboards, another shortcut if you're not using a controller and all you have is your computer keyboard, you can hit Command K, and now your musical typing keyboard will be engaged. So what you can do with this is you can actually play on your musical keyboard with the keys on your laptop or your computer keyboard. Z and X are to adjust the octaves that you're on, and C and V are going to adjust your velocity here. So now that I've shown you a little bit of the piano roll, another quick shortcut that I like to use once I've recorded something MIDI is Command R to repeat a region. If I want to copy that region over, just select the region and click Command R. There you have it. Regions have been copied over. Again, if you'd like to cycle that area, just click and drag this yellow bar across the length of the section that you want to cycle and loop, and it will turn yellow and you can lock it in here. Next is the snap area. I like to keep this on smart, and then I actually like to adjust this to snap regions to absolute value. I pretty much keep it at this selection 100% of the time because I like to make sure my regions are falling on the grid when I have to move things around. So just select that and you'll see Logic will give you a prompt to confirm snap regions to absolute value, Logic Pro. Here is where you can do your swing percentage from here. You can actually transpose the note from here. You just click and drag up or down and you'll see those numbers show up. Click on more. You can actually delay some of the MIDI timing. All you have to do, same thing, click and drag up or down, and you can select how many ticks that you'd like to push forward or pull back on the particular MIDI event here that you have selected. So for this button here, you can actually click this and it will drop down and give you options to adjust your tempo, signature, your markers, and your arrangements. You can use this window to do all of those events in here. This button here will just duplicate a track that you're already on. If you're on a MIDI track like I am here, you click this and it will create an additional MIDI track. If you click an audio track, you click this, it will create an additional audio track for you. So this helps a lot once you're going through your session and you want to just duplicate a track. This will duplicate the track that you're on, and it will also duplicate the instrument that you have selected on that channel once you've clicked this button. So as you can see, the drum synth was on this channel. On the duplicated channel, you'll see the drum synth again selected. So that's a quick way once you're going through your sessions. If you want to duplicate a track, you just click this button here. Okay, next is the library window. You can click here and cycle through some of Logic Pro's default sounds. If you go to the drum kit, I'll just select Brooklyn, for example. This is the drum kit. If you want to see the interface, just click on the insert that's selected, that you selected here. This will open the actual interface for the instrument that you selected. And I'm just hitting some of the pads on my controller. Okay, to delete a region, you can just click on that region and hit delete. Or you can go to your secondary tool here and select the eraser tool so that you can click Command and click, and that will also erase your regions. You could also select your primary tool here and make that your eraser. But again, I like to keep my primary tool on the pointer tool and my secondary tool as the scissors tool. All right, I'm going to create another software instrument here. Click the plus sign, software instrument, bring it to the top, and I'm going to right click here inside the track. I'm going to do create pattern region. So this is Logic Step Sequencer. Down here, you can put the notes that you want played in that step sequence and just click them in. And if you want to turn this back into MIDI, all you have to do is right click this and convert to MIDI region right here. And now it's in MIDI. So now you can actually go in and quantize or swing. If you want to see the mixer window, I just hit the letter X on my keyboard as a shortcut, and this is going to show you all of your channels here that you have in your session, so you can control the levels and do some mixing techniques in here. This area here on the channel strip is where you would put your audio effects. You just click on one of the inserts and then select the effect that you want, and that would go right on the channel here. To take the effect off, you click on it again, click on no plugin. Here you can double click this box and it will open up Logic Pro's default EQ plugin. Just double click and there's your EQ. Do a low cut here. I just clicked on this button here. You can do a high cut here. You could then also select your sends here as well, your outputs here, and you can mute and solo your channels here. You can arm your audio channels here to record from here. You can also bounce your session from right here. This is another shortcut, as well as over here on this main channel strip here. You can also bounce your session by clicking this button. To get out of your mixer window, just hit X on your keyboard. So to get to automation, you can actually click this button here. That will take you to the automation window. Or you can actually just hit the letter A on your keyboard and that will open automation. You can just select the track that you want to put automation on, open the plugin that you want to automate. You can then tell Logic what value that you want to automate in that plugin. So let's say for this hat, I want to automate the pitch. I'll go here to where it says read and I'll select touch. So then when I play the track back, I can then touch which knobs or which faders that I want to actually automate. So I want to automate the pitch. I'm going to click on pitch once it's playing. So in real time, I could actually click this pitch knob here while the track is playing and it will record the automation movements while it's playing. Once you've recorded your automation, make sure you go back to where it says touch and click read to put it back in read mode so it will play back, and then you can go in and adjust the automation points to your liking. You can take the nodes and move them around. See, this is the pitch dial moving according to the automation notes. You can also grab a secondary tool in here again and go down to automation curve tool or select tool so that you can actually create a curve in your automation drawing if you'd like. So we can just zoom in here. So your zoom controls are going to be here in the upper right hand corner. You can do a horizontal zoom here with this dial, and you can do a vertical zoom with this dial. I like to use the shortcut of Option and scroll, and it go up or down, left to right, the same way without having to continuously go over to this side of the screen to make those adjustments. So now you have your secondary tool here as an automation curve. If you want to adjust your automation movements, you just hit Command and you'll see this automation line show up under your pointer tool, and go to the section that you'd like to adjust. Click on that. You'll see it turn white, and you can actually move your mouse and it will bend the automation curve in the direction that you want. To adjust the tempo of a track, you could actually click on the BPM here and just drag it down or up to adjust that quickly, or you could double click on that and actually select it by typing the BPM you want and hit enter. Bounce in place is another shortcut that I like to use a lot. Right click on the region, you'll see bounce in place. Then you can actually name the new region, what you'd like to name it. This is a hi-hat, so I just call this hats. Then you can actually decide if you want to leave the original source there, if you want to mute it, or if you want to delete the original source that you're bouncing from. You can also bypass any effects plugins that you have on that channel if you want. You can include the audio tail in the file, include audio tail in the region, include volume and pan automation information. So I have that all checked here. Overload protection only is what I have selected here for normalize. And then I hit OK. And now my track has been bounced from MIDI to audio, just like that. And this is with the automation movements. So once that MIDI region was bounced in place and created an audio track, it actually left a longer tail at the end than the actual size of the grid. So all you'll do to adjust that is bring your mouse to the bottom right hand corner. You'll see it turn into a bracket. Click on that and you can actually just bring that in to snap it right to the grid so everything is locked in place. Another technique you could use is you could zoom in if you wanted to, and if you have your scissor tool as your secondary tool, you would just command, you'll see it turn into a scissor and click, and it will actually cut that part of the region off. Using the scissors, another technique I like to use a lot is the holding down Option and Command. Now you'll see a plus sign next to the scissors here, and if you want to cut this audio region up into equal sections, that's what it'll do by just clicking this one area. So now you have equal slices cut of this particular audio region all the way across the length of the region. So then you can go and move these sections around if you want. You could do things like reverse right from the region. Make sure you have this region window open here in this section on the left and have the region selected, and click this box here that says reverse, and it automatically reverses that particular region. Now if you have multiple cut regions like this, but you'd like to make it one solid region, all you have to do is highlight those regions that you want to join together and then hit the letter J on your keyboard, and it will ask if you want to create a new audio file, and you hit create, and now it's one audio file. If you want to change the color of a region, you select that region, you hit Option C, and then you have a color box here. Then you can change the color of that region by clicking the color box that you'd like. So if you wanted to change the color of your track to match the color of the regions on that particular track, so this is a brown region, but the track is blue, since it's an audio track, you could actually change this to the same color as the region. You would just hit Shift, Option, Command, and C. And now your track is matching the same color of the regions within that track. You can do a similar thing with the name of a track. So if you wanted to call this percussion, but your regions are still reading here at the top as the file name of the original file, but you want this to say percussion, all you have to do is hit Shift, Option, and N. That will change the names of all the regions to match the name of the track. Another way to copy a region over would be to have the region selected, hit Option, click, and drag that region over, and it will copy that region over and leave the original region in place. So fading in and fading out is another technique that I use a lot. All you have to do is zoom in here. If you want to fade out this region, you will see this crosshair show up. You click on the corner and drag out as long as you want the fade to be. If you'd like to give this fade a curve, all you have to do is hover your mouse here until you see this icon with the line going down the center of it. Click and then drag to the direction that you want to create the curve, this way or this way. Same thing for fading in. All you have to do is hover your mouse to the upper left hand corner of the region, click, and start to drag the fade out. Once the fade has been created, again hover your mouse inside of the fade and you'll see this icon with the line in the middle. Click and then drag to bend the curve up or down. You could also adjust your fade in and out points here from this region window. You can just double click and type in the value that you want to have as your fade in. Hit enter and it'll actually create the fade in here. You could also adjust the curve value here, and then you also can adjust your fade out value here. You can select the type if you want to be a fade out, a crossfade. You could also use this fading technique to create a slowdown or a speed up technique in the same area that you would select for a fade. So you do the same technique and then go to where it says fade in, click speed up. This will actually do a record speed up effect. And you see that the fade section turns orange instead of white or gray. So I'm going to hit play and you'll get to hear what this does. So it's like a turntable starting vinyl effect. Same thing with the fade out. You could do a slowdown. You just create your fade. Go to where it says fade out, click here and click on slow down. Again, you'll see the fade go from white or gray to an orange color. Now let's play that. Now to turn the metronome off while you're playing the track, you could actually just go back to this arrow here and hit on click. Now it says metronome click off. So now the metronome will be off as you play the track through. Another way to solo a track quickly is just select S when you have the track selected on your keyboard, and that will solo the track quickly, just like that. Click S to solo and click S again to unsolo the track. If you'd like to mute a particular region in a section, all you have to do is click on that region and hit the letter M on your keyboard. That will mute that region, and you hit M and it will unmute it. If you want to select multiple regions, you could either click and highlight those regions, or you can actually click one region, hit Shift, and click another region, and that will actually select both of those regions simultaneously. And you can mute both of those by hitting the letter M on your keyboard. You can unmute them both by hitting M again. Same thing with solo, S. You can solo just that, and you can also unsolo. So this button here in the upper left is your toolbar button. Click that. You'll see a brand new toolbar get created here under your transport bar. Okay, one of my favorite features on this toolbar is the repeat section button. If I have a full arrangement and I just want to grab one section and repeat it, all I have to do is select the range of that section that I want to repeat, hit repeat section, and it will add that section right on the grid where I want it. You could also cut a section out that same way by hitting cut section. If I also want to insert a section, all I have to do is place my cursor here and it'll insert that section when I hit insert section. To highlight, you just click and drag the mouse, select the regions you want to delete, hit delete. If you want to undo, it's always Command Z. You can also choose to move the order of your tracks around. If I want to place this kick at the top, you just click, drag this up to the top, place it there, click and hold, drag it down and move it again, and let go of the mouse. You could actually collapse these windows here. Just click on this down arrow and this will actually collapse or expand these windows. Sometimes they'll get in the way and cover up your inserts on your channel strip. So now that I have this brand new software instrument track, if I have a third-party instrument like Contact or Silent or something like that that does not come with Logic, this is how I would insert that onto a channel. So you go here to your channel strip where it says instrument, click on that, go down to AU, which is audio units, instruments, and you'll see all of your third-party plugins listed here. So if I wanted to go to Contact, Native Instruments, Contact, Stereo, and this is where I would have Contact. If I wanted to add a third-party audio effects plugin, I'll go to audio effects here, click, scroll down to where it says audio units. This is where all of your third-party audio effects will be listed. If I wanted to use the Cytomic, the glue, I will go to Cytomic, the manufacturer, go to the glue plugin name and hit stereo. Now within an audio effect or a plugin, this is how you could actually turn off and on or bypass the plugin with this blue button here. When it's blue, that means the plugin is on. When it's grayed out, that means it's bypassed or it's off. If you want to utilize a sidechain option, that would be right here. If you're using a compressor, you'd select your sidechain from here, click on that button, and then you can actually select the sidechain trigger from here if it's an audio track, or if it's a software instrument, those instruments will be listed here. If you're coming from using outboard gear, you want to create an audio track, you just hit the plus button to add tracks, go to audio, click create, and make sure you have your inputs selected here. This is showing the channel mode that it's in. This means stereo. If you can click on this, it will actually turn it into a mono track just by clicking on this. And if you want to go back to stereo, you just click on it again and you'll see the stereo signal icon pop back up here. Now, if you'd like to record any of your outboard gear, like your MPC or a microphone or keyboard, you go here and arm the channel to start recording. Just make sure all of your outboard gear or all of your external instruments are plugged in to your interface that's using Logic Pro. So that way, once you have the track armed, you'll be able to start seeing a signal before you record, just to make sure that Logic Pro is receiving the audio signal coming from that external instrument. And then all you would do is press record, and then it would start recording right away, and it would look like this. Obviously it's recording the metronome right now, but that's to show you what it would look like recording an external instrument in to Logic Pro in the middle of your session. And that would be your recording. You have the same controls over this region. You can crop that region in. Just click and change the length in or out. You can use your secondary tool, your scissors, command, you'll see the scissors here. Command and click, that will cut the region anywhere you'd like to cut it. You can add your fades. You could hover over the top right hand corner and you see the crosshairs and pull the fader out for a fade out, pull the fader in for a fade in. This here is your panning knob. You can actually pan the track left to right, and you can decide which pan values you'd like to choose. Here is your volume fader. Here it's just like this, but it's right here for you. That's what this is. You also have a pan knob here, and you can also adjust your automation mode from right here as well. If you want to add a MIDI effect to a particular channel, you would highlight this channel, go to MIDI effects. Logic comes with an arpeggiator, chord trigger, and note repeater, randomizer, a lot of different MIDI effects that you could add to the channel. So as you can see with the randomizer, for example, you can choose the event type of what you'd like to randomize. The default is at the velocity, but you could choose any of these different values here that you'd like to adjust randomly. And then you can select the input range here. And when you hit play, it will actually randomize the note values here in the MIDI information. So if you have something like a melodic sound, you could use in MIDI effects like an arpeggiator. And Logic's arpeggiator, you can choose the note orders with these buttons here. Once this arpeggiator is on, you just hit one note and the arpeggiator will be in effect. So I'm going to open a new software instrument and show you a plugin that I use that comes with Logic Pro, and I use this plugin a lot. This is the Quick Sampler. Quick Sampler, this is where you can click and drag your audio tracks in here and chop them up, almost like a Serato sampler. So I'll just click and drag this in here. I like to use the optimized option, so I'll click and drag it there. This Quick Sampler is one of my favorite software instruments from Logic Pro. I can go to slice and it'll automatically slice the transients here into individual notes. I can go to one shot and it will play the sample in chromatic mode and play it straight through. You could change the polyphony here to 1, and this will re-trigger the sample every time you hit the pad, and the notes won't overlap. So another cool feature that I like to use here is this button. This button will time stretch the sample no matter how high or low the pitch is. So if I start with a low pitch, it'll be at 122. Or if I go to a high pitch, it'll be at 122. Also in the Quick Sampler, you can adjust your pitch here. You can adjust the envelope here. You can turn on the filter, bring the cutoff down. You can add drive to the track. And you could also utilize LFOs here in this section if you'd like to. What's also cool about the Quick Sampler that I like to use a lot is this recorder option here. Just hit the recorder button and you'll see an open window. It says select a recording input. You go here, select your input. Mine is input 1 and 2. Now you'll start to see the input being tracked and recorded in here. So you can actually record a microphone in here, an external instrument, anything you want that's plugged into your interface. You can actually record that audio live into the sampler. So I'm going to record a couple of claps to show you the difference from this microphone. So you'll be able to see your input coming in here to make sure that you're actually getting a signal right here at the level meter. So I'm going to record some claps right here. And now I have complete control of them with a MIDI controller. So now I can actually record those claps as MIDI. Go back here and quantize now. You could double click and actually see your piano roll here. So this is all of your MIDI showing up right here. And now you have complete control of that audio track. You could even create a pattern region and use the step sequencer again. Also in this browser window here, if you click on project, now that we have some regions inside of the session, this is where you'll see all of those region events here happening. Any cuts you've made, any audio regions you've created and clicked and dragged in or recorded in, they're all going to be listed right here. So you can see everything audio wise and what's happening in your session by going to this project tab here and scrolling up and down and seeing all of the audio events that you've created. If you go to all files, that's where you'll be able to see your external hard drive and file paths to browse and cycle through your sounds. Create another software instrument here just to show you the drum machine designer. So this is the drum machine designer, which is similar to battery with the layout. You could actually select the cell that you want to add an instrument to, and Logic Pro has these default sounds, and you can add those sounds to the cell that you want here. But you could also bring in your own sounds that way. You can click and drag from anywhere. I'll just click from this browser here, but you could just take this sound or this and just click and drag it right here to a cell. So now that you have a sample in here, you have all of the control from Quick Sampler still inside the Drum Machine Designer. And what's cool about the Drum Machine Designer also is you can go back to the session view here, and you'll see a little drop down arrow where the channel or track that the Drum Machine Designer is on. You just click that and it'll show you the individual tracks. It'll create individual tracks for each pad that you have loaded or each cell that you have a sound loaded into. So that way, once you're on that track and you have that track selected, it will put that sample into chromatic mode for you automatically. Go to sampler detail. I could change the polyphony again to 1 so that the notes don't overlap when I play them back. You can go to 1 shot and then things will be played in chromatic. And so if you wanted to bounce what you have created, you go here as a shortcut, click on this bounce button, and then you can select all of the different formats and the different parameters that you want to bounce your track. You can bounce it offline, which is a quicker bounce, or in real time it'll actually bounce the length of the file and play in real time as it's bouncing. And you can turn on normalize or turn off normalize, and then you can hit OK, and that will bounce your track. So I've created another audio track here. I'm going to click and drag a region into here and just show you flex pitch. I use that quite a bit as well. This button here is your flex pitch. This will allow you to quantize audio. I normally will select slicing or rhythmic if it's something like percussion or hi-hats and I want to change the timing or quantize that audio region. Let's go to rhythmic. Now it's going to turn into a dark blue and you'll see these dotted lines. That's going to allow Logic Pro to adjust to whichever quantized value that you choose. Let's hear this first with before the quantize. I'm going to give this a strong swing. So I'm going to go to 116 D for the swing. Now let's hear. As you can see, Logic made some adjustments here. Let's listen. And then to get out of that feature, just click back on this flex button. And now you have your audio quantized. Here in the piano roll, if you'd like to nudge a note slightly off the grid, you just select the MIDI note that you want, hit Option, hold that down, and tap left or right arrows to just nudge it slightly off the grid. So I just changed this BPM to 110 to make this example. I pulled in this audio track here. As you can see, it's at 125. If I want to slow that down to 110, all I have to do is hover the mouse on the bottom right hand corner, click Option, and once I click Option, you'll see these little lines created on both sides of that bracket. That's gonna signal that you're going to be changing the timing on this region once you drag it to the right. So I'm gonna drag it all the way to bar 5 here and make sure it locks right onto the grid at bar 5, and then let go of the mouse. And now this time will be adjusted from 125 BPM to 110 BPM. So let's play it before the time stretch. This is at 125 BPM. Now I'm going to time stretch it. Again, hover the mouse down on the bottom right hand corner of the region. You'll see the bracket appear. Click and hold Option. Click the mouse and drag the mouse to bar 5 here. Now it's changed the timing from 125 to 110 BPM. Another way to get to the mixer would be to click this icon here, this button at the top. Click on that. That will also open the mixer. You could also open it as a separate window. You can go to Window, or you can hit Command 2, and it will open up the mixer in its own separate window. So if you have maybe another screen you want to click and drag it out to, it'll pop out and give you its own window for the mixer. And you can do that for pretty much all of the different windows. You can open the piano roll that same way. Go to Window here at the top and click on Open. You can open all of these in their own windows. Also, you can use the shortcuts. Again, Command 2 for the mixer window, Command 4 for the piano roll. You could also create automation within the piano roll. Here you just click on this Show Hide Automation button here, and this is where you can basically add your velocities for different notes here. As you can see, I'm just placing some notes so you can see what it does. You can adjust the velocities here. Just click and drag these nodes up or down, and now you have your velocity adjusted for whatever that sound would be. If you want to add a new MIDI region into a track without recording, you just right click on the track and click on Create MIDI Region. Then you can double click and start to lay down your pattern. You can grab a pencil tool and start creating your pattern. If you want to change the velocity of a particular note, you just click on that note. You can raise this window up too here. Just grab the crosshair and pull it up. You can actually adjust the velocity for that one note here, and as you can see, the color will change depending on the velocity value that you choose. Of course, to save, you will hit Command S. Another feature that I like in this toolbar here is the note repeat. Press a button or pad or key and it will play as a note repeat in 1/16 or 1/8 or 1/4. Currently, I'm using an Akai MPD32 MIDI controller. And if you'd like to MIDI map or assign values to the knobs and faders that come on this particular MIDI controller, all you have to do is press Command and L. All I have to do is click on the knob that I want to assign. This is the pitch. So I'll click on that. Logic Pro will take that information in, and then you just start to twist the knob that you actually want to use. As you can see, I'm twisting the knob. So now I have full control over the pitch with one of the knobs on my controller. So you can assign this to the faders, to the pads, and to the knobs on your MIDI controller. And that's how you can MIDI map your MIDI controller. And as I twist the knob, you can hear the pitch being adjusted in real time as I'm twisting the knob on my MPD32 controller. So these are just some of my favorite shortcuts and favorite features within Logic Pro to help me move along quicker in my workflow. So I'm hoping that some of these can help you as well getting started with Logic Pro. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all of my subscribers. Please be sure to leave a comment if you have any other questions about Logic that I could be helpful with. Make sure you hit the like button, and I'll see you on the next one.